What's the best career for you, fellow INFJ? Recently, I've corresponded with INFJ nurses, writers, actors, art instructors, screenwriters. The list goes on and on. If you want to find a career that suits you well as an INFJ, you need to keep 4 things in mind, which I'm going to share with you in this show. Before we jump into the 4 things you should keep in mind to find a satisfying career as an INFJ, I have a free gift for you, the INFJ Personality Guide. The goal of this guide is to help you understand yourself, reach your potential, and live a life of purpose. And in the guide, I have explained how your different preferences, introversion, intuition, feeling, and judging affect your life, and more specifically, how you're wired, what your mindsets are. There are 4 of them, and they really impact what you think and what you do and what's important to you and what motivates you. So if you want to learn how to modify your life and make it better fit you and how to harness your gifts and just how to relate to others better and a host of all different other things, which I talk about in the book, you should grab a free copy of this guide. And you can do that by texting the letters INFJ to 444999. Just text those letters to the number 444999, or you can download a copy at ispeakpeople.com/INFJ-personality-guide. The first thing that you want to keep in mind when you're looking for a satisfying career as an INFJ is that you can find a job in any field. Popular advice says that you have to find a career that suits you as an INFJ, and there are only specific set of them, or at least that's what a lot of people think. But I love the work that Tiger Barron and Tiger have done in the book Do What You Are, and in that book they explain that you can find a job in any field. What's more important is that you find one that suits your strengths. So it doesn't matter if it's in education, in business, and in the non-profit sector. It doesn't matter if it's construction related. No matter what you're doing, you just want to make sure that your natural strengths and the way you think and the way you get energy are naturally applied and are called on throughout the day in what you do. That's so much more important than the title of the job or in what kind of field you're working. So let me dive a little bit deeper into those specific strengths. When it comes to your strengths, they're going to build off of the way you naturally think and the way you naturally get energy. More specifically, when we're talking about the Myers-Briggs personality theory and the work of Carl Jung and the people that followed after him, we're talking about functions or the mindsets that drive a person. And based on this theory, there are 4 that make up every personality type. So for you as an INFJ, they are the following: introverted intuition, that's number 1, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, and extroverted sensing. And they are hierarchical in their structure, meaning that the first one is the most powerful and the most well-developed. The second one is also pretty strong. It's kind of like a sidekick. The third one is somewhat developed, especially as a person gets older and learns how to use it a little better. And the fourth is an Achilles heel of sorts, but later on in life can be adequately developed, so it's not quite as awkward or uncomfortable to use. So to go through them briefly, let's start with introverted intuition. Introverted intuition, your greatest strength and your first mindset, allows you to make connections easily. It allows you to see patterns. It gives you the ability to look long-term into the future and to connect the dots. It's also the source of a ton of creativity. Introverted intuition might give you a strong interest in words. I know that INFJs in general tend to be good writers, or at least enjoy playing with words. I know that I can't go a day without making up some kind of pun and driving other people nuts with my bad jokes. I just can't help it. I love to play with words. And it also makes you a good synthesizer and somewhat of a visionary. And as we're going to look at with the next function, which is extroverted feeling, when paired with this other mindset or function, I'm calling them, it makes you see possibilities for people. So let's just take a minute to talk about extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling seeks to please other people. It's all about group harmony and getting along with others. So it makes you hate conflict and love peace. And it also makes you really good at including other people, welcoming them in, and meeting their needs. So when you pair this with introverted intuition, it makes you a counselor of sorts, whether that's your official title or not. So a lot of INFJs are really used to giving advice or decent counsel because they can see what a person's been doing and play out a pattern of behavior into the future and see what is probably going to come to pass. And they can give good advice to some extent or another with that information. But extroverted feeling also just makes you able to connect with people. And this is the reason why a lot of other people might think you're an extrovert, or at least some INFJs are extroverts when really we're introverts, because it makes you gregarious until all your energy is dried up. And it also makes you somewhat loquacious, or you love to talk a lot, and that's okay. You're just that when you manifest your extroverted side, it comes out as a people-loving, connected side. So as an introvert, you really do like to be with people, and you're good at connecting with and relating to them. So those are some of the strengths of extroverted feeling. Now, just as a side note, this mindset isn't as well developed as introverted intuition. Again, it's like a sidekick, so it's pretty well developed, but it's not nearly as strong. Now, if you go to the third of the 4 different mindsets I was talking about, the third one's called introverted thinking. And introverted thinking is somewhat balanced with extroverted feeling. It depends on what you've spent more time developing and what your family dynamics were like and what your job requires, and it's all based on the INFJ, how well developed feeling and thinking are. But typically feeling's more developed and then thinking is next. And introverted thinking is disposed to logical problem solving. More specifically, it's really good at coming up with a custom solution. It makes you more efficient. Like one of my favorite things to do is think about how I can eliminate unneeded, unnecessary work to get a job done faster. Introverted thinking also excels at understanding a system and its parts and how they all work together. So it's really good at troubleshooting in a lot of instances. And introverted thinking is also logical and impersonal, contrary to extroverted feeling. So your introverted thinking, as you develop this later in life, or if you've had the chance to develop it, in your 20s or earlier on, it can balance out your intuition and feeling and check it with logic. The fourth and final mindset that drives you as an INFJ is called extroverted sensing. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this is your Achilles heel. So this is the mindset that allows you to be in the moment and just to notice things in your environment, to pick up on what you can see, smell, hear, taste, and touch, and also just to be interested in what's going on around you. So your mind's kind of at a tug of war because as an INFJ with dominant introverted intuition, you prefer to think off into the future, but a lot of life calls you to be right there in the moment. So that's really a challenge for most INFJs. The other thing to keep in mind with extroverted sensing is that it's really hands-on and realistic work. So anything that requires you to use your hands to solve problems would involve a lot of extroverted sensing. So to sum up your strengths when you're looking for a career, if you can find one that primarily calls you to use introverted intuition first and foremost above anything else, and then secondly, extroverted feeling, that would be ideal. And then it's only a plus on top of that if it asks you to use introverted thinking and extroverted sensing as well. Of the 4 mindsets, I mentioned that the fourth one, extroverted sensing, is your weakness. But what I didn't mention is that it also has a lot of appeal for INFJs, because even though we're not great at being in the moment, we really do love things that are realistic in nature. Just think about being outside and taking a walk in the woods, or being anywhere beautiful, or even just the types of rooms you prefer. You probably like to be around beauty, whether you can explain it or not. It's really important to you. Beautiful music, beautiful surroundings, nature, anything that's beautiful. Probably even the things that you buy. Some INFJs really prefer to have nice things. Like, you won't necessarily need a lot of nice things, but the things that you do get, you like to have a nice thing. So for example, when I get a computer, I'm not dissing PCs at all. I like those too, but I tend to get Macs, and if possible, nicer Macs. Now, they're not like the absolute top of the line, but I do like to get nice things when it comes to technology gear. So that's just kind of how I'm wired, and often how a lot of INFJs are wired. here's the challenge. When you're first starting out looking for a career, particularly when you're about to get out of high school or to think about going into college and you're younger, that's the time of life where you'll feel a strong allure to pursue your fourth mindset, the one that you might find a lot of pleasure in, but that when it really comes down to it, you're not as good at, especially compared to your dominant function, introverted intuition. So, for example, when I was looking for a job, I really enjoyed biology and the sciences, the outdoor sciences. Loved it. I thought after doing some environmental studies in high school and some advanced environmental education, I thought I'd want to be a park ranger and to pursue that. But I'm really so glad that I didn't do that, because using my hands all day long would have been extremely tiring and a bad fit for me. Or some kinds of art that would require you to use your hands a whole lot could be frustrating. Whenever you have to come up with an idea and then spend a lot of time implementing it with your hands, that could be a challenge. Now, I'm not saying don't do art, because I think a lot of INFJs are good at art, and I'm not saying don't do hands-on thing. Like I know a landscape architect who's an INFJ. There are just lots of jobs that employ your hands that INFJs can do as well. What I'm saying is make sure that the job you're doing primarily asks you to use introverted intuition and to some extent extroverted feeling, and then allow it to use some extroverted sensing as well. What you don't want to do is choose a job that mainly asks you to use extroverted sensing, because that's just going to burn you out and it's going to lead to a lot of frustration. To sum up, you want to find a job that calls you to use your greatest strengths. To go back to Tiger Baron and Tiger, you want to find something that asks you to be you. So what would you do naturally if you were just left to your own time, and what brings you energy? And more specifically, as an INFJ, you want to find something that primarily asks you to use introverted intuition, because that's what you do best that most other people can't do, and it's what brings you energy. So that means being creative, that means seeing patterns, that means making connections and synthesizing ideas and working with words and analyzing to some extent, and doing it all primarily on the behalf of people. Now, if it involves your hands, great, especially if it's more in a reward fashion, as Dr. AJ Drank, who happens to be a personality expert, has said. But the main point is that you want to use your greatest strengths. And I just want to add a caveat that you probably won't ever find a job that meets all of your desires. There's always going to be some work that you don't like, and that's normal, and just recognize that as an idealist. But if you can find a job that mainly asks you to use your greatest strengths and just to be yourself, then you are going to be a happier camper than you ever would be doing work that doesn't ask you to use your greatest strengths. Thanks so much for watching this video today. I hope that it's helped you on your INFJ career hunt. Don't give up hope. You can definitely find a job that's a good fit for you. And it may just mean that you make your own job. So maybe we'll talk about that in a later video. But if you haven't yet hit the subscribe button, make sure that you do that, because I'll be creating new videos every week for INFJs just like you. So don't miss out on those future updates. And also, if you haven't grabbed your own free copy of the INFJ Personality Guide, make sure to do that by texting the letters INFJ to the number 444999, or you can grab a copy by visiting ispeakpeople.com/INFJ-personality-guide. It's been a pleasure spending time with you today. See you on the next video.